Hey, everybody, it's Hump Day Happy Hour. And you know, it's your backstage look at all the happening, current events in the dental world. It's live and over a cocktail. How is everybody tonight? Well, first, we've already sort of hit the biggest news of the day, not dental related, which was the verdict is finally in on the Heard Depp case. If you haven't read about it, you must be living under a rock, because everybody is talking about it who is under the age of 40. I think. I don't know. Maybe me and Chad are the only ones over the age of 40 who are watching this. But anyway, Johnny won. There was a little bit of a settlement between Amber as well. But in case you hadn't heard yet, there's no way I'm possibly the first one to tell you. But Johnny won the case, so we can finally put this to bed. Maybe he'll get to act again. Fingers crossed. I would love to see him back on the screen. In other dental related news, there was a couple things that I wanted to talk about last week, but personal issues kind of got in the way. The first was Bernie Sanders has reintroduced a Medicare bill. So we had talked a little bit about that last year. There was a Medicare bill for all that was being pushed out there. It's resurfacing again and trying to gain additional traction. So we'll continue to watch that. I think it's more an exploratory phase at this point, but it has been reintroduced again. So I don't think this issue is dead. I think we're going to have more conversations about Medicare dental benefits included for all. So we're watching that pretty closely. Another interesting piece of news that came out this week is a new fluoridation system that's starting to be deployed throughout the U.S. So many municipalities that were currently fluoridating their water supplies had started to consider removing fluoridation from their program because of cost. And a lot of the fluoridation programs and systems that were in place to provide fluoride to municipal water supplies were fairly antiquated. And that makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it, this was a program that was launched many moons ago and probably has not seen a lot of evolution. Well, there's a new product out there. It's a tablet distribution system that allows a slow leach of fluoride into the municipal water supply over time. There's a couple states that are onboarding it here in the next couple of months, and my own home state has 2 on order as well. I'll link the news story. It's in the ADA news for this week. Chad does second news, by the way. and you guys can take a peek at what the details are. I would expect that if that's a less expensive way for municipal, for communities and community water sources to fluoridate their water, this may gain a lot of traction. So that's kind of interesting to see the evolution of fluoridated dental or fluoridated water supplies. In addition, there is one other item. Hold on. There was a chief dental service that was named this week as well. The new HRSA has named the new chief dental officer by the name of Dr. Adam Barefoot. He's a DMD MPH, and he's been named to manage the dental aspect of the HRSA dental arm. So hopefully we'll continue good relationships with him as well, and open dialogue so that we can have dental considered in multiple legislative affairs as things develop over time. And that becomes really important post-pandemic, looking at aerosol management and the OSHA temporary standard becoming permanent. And with that, that's the news. Just gonna leave me up here by myself.
I was looking like, how should I do this? And I
Yes.
was trying to figure out how to do it. I figured it out finally. One of these days I'll teach you what the controls at the bottom means. Yeah.
Someday. I just finished watching Legally Blonde. I'm not sure I'm ready yet, but I'll get there.
You're not ready?
I'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I am going to introduce our guest in just a second. But before I do that, Jeff has a special message. Since he's watching, I should probably share it with everybody, but he's in Italy, so hold on just a sec.
Hey gang, we are in Florence, Italy. I am with Justin Mangelsdorf and a lot of the great doctors from DECA Lasers. We've been here learning a lot of cool stuff. Chad, I miss you. JB, I miss you, but we gotta say this. DECA Lasers, baby!
Oh, Jeff, that was a good one.
Was almost as good as it is when he's home.
Yes, it was almost as good as when he's home. But anyways, we appreciate it. Jeff, have fun in Italy with our good friends at DECA Dental Lasers. And please be sure to tell Justin, have a very happy birthday. Justin Mangelsdorf, the owner of the DECA distribution in the United States, had turned 50 last week. So happy birthday, Justin. We wanted to say that to you. So wish you the best. Have a great time. But without further ado, and I'm just going to tell Pam, I apologize. I'm not really good at reading bios because it's already posted. And I'm also going to apologize because I'm probably going to butcher her last name, but I'm going to give it a shot. Dr. Pam Ragliano Muniz. Did I say it right? Kind of. Meaning, there's no inye on there, but I figured that it probably needed an inye because I love inye's. So, and beignets. But anyways, I'll let her correctly pronunciate her last name because I've always referred to her as Dr. Pam. But anyhow, I met this wonderful doctor. Jeff and I both met her for the first time. We've seen her all over social media. We met her at the GC Summit. And I believe September, I don't know, 2021 was kind of a blur, but she was a bright spot in that blur of 2021. So we met in Arizona at the GC Summit, and Jeff and I knew instantly that we had to get her on the show because she's so dynamic and all of her connections within dentistry. When she spoke, you knew that she really was passionate about what she does, and as we all are, and that just transcends. And then I ran into her about 9 months later in California a couple of weeks ago. And she made it very clear that, yes, she would gladly be on the show, but I did not respond. And so as a true husband would do, I will tell you that, yes, I admit entire fault for that. I did not respond to her in a timely manner. But regardless, she wasn't mad enough at me to not be on the show. So here she is. And Pam, Please say your last name.
It's Maragliano Muniz.
Maragliano Muniz. So there's no Inye.
There might be, but I don't.
Yeah, but I love the Inye. I think we just need to put a little thing over the top of it, and it's Muniz.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Just throw it on there. There's not enough to this last name. Let's throw it on it too.
You want a tilde too? Just, put the emphasis in a totally different section of the word.
Yeah.
Like we're just screwing around with it now.
Yeah,
let's do it.
You kind of have to do that because that's what makes life a lot of fun. So, and you practice in Boston?
My practice is in Salem, Mass, which is about, if you're a bird, like 10 miles north of Boston.
Okay. So, side note, our summer vacation plans got derailed last night, but we were going to fly into Boston. We were going to spend a day in Salem, and then we were going to go spend the week in Kennebunkport, Maine. And the reason that they got derailed is because we are procrastinators. And when we went to look at the house that we had originally planned on, said house was gone. And so like the options for a family of 4 weren't that great. But now I'm wishing more and more that I would go because I could visit my buddy Pam in Salem. So we're still going to look into it and try and figure things out. But we were totally going to do that because my kids are totally into like history stuff and they're really fascinated with Salem. So we will do it. It just may not be this summer. So,
well, you have an open invitation for a visit.
Yeah. So, and when did you start practicing in Salem?
2014.
Okay. And when did you graduate from your PROS residency?
2007.
Okay. So did I read correctly? Dentistry is a second career for you.
If you count dental, it's number 1.
Well, doctor of dentistry is a second career.
Yes.
Hygienist first.
Yes.
So tell us about your path.
It was honestly not by design at all. When I was in college, I kind of wanted to major in ice hockey or maybe become a veterinarian. I had like no idea what I wanted to do. And kind of weird. You'd think he was a dentist, but he's not. My dad made my sister become a dental hygienist. She wanted to study music and become like a Broadway star or something. And he was like, you have to go to dental hygiene school. And after you become a hygienist, you can do whatever you want. My dad's a little old school, and he thought that a hygienist was a good job for a woman and that maybe we wouldn't have to depend on a man in our life. So that's kind of our don't depend on a man job. So become a hygienist and then like do whatever you want with your life. So I roll around and I'm like, I want to play hockey. And he's like, after you become a dental hygienist. So off to hygiene school I went, and it was interesting. It was just totally different from regular school, if you will. And I felt like I was finally studying something with a purpose. And it was really, I loved it. I got there and I really enjoyed what I did. And I went into hygiene school kind of like, you guys want to do this for a living? Like, you do this all day? Like, how many people do you see in a day? Like, it was crazy. I knew nothing about dentistry. And became a hygienist. And then pretty much straight after hygiene school, I went on for my bachelor's in hygiene, and I started working as a hygienist. And because I had no dental experience, we'd get to the periodic exam at the end, and I would just be like, wow, how do you do that? You're going to do what? Like, I had no idea. And I just found the dentist to be so clever. And I worked for prosthodontists, and I worked for kind of not the best general dentist. And so when I decided I wanted to go to dental school, and again, I didn't have like a great source of comparison here. I just kind of felt, well, if I'm going to go to dental school, I want to be like them, and I need to be a prosthodontist too. That's just what I have to do. So I kind of went into dental school kind of hoping and planning to be a prosthodontist. And so it just sort of, it was really one evolution after another. If you told me back when I started my education that I was going to be in school till I was 30, I probably would have just went with the hockey plan, just called it a day.
So many things I love about that story, but going back to the very beginning of it, I got to tell you, so both of my kids are very involved in theater. My son has always been Will Ferrell-esque and always wanted to be a comedian. And my daughter's got the voice. And so my son, in going to college was like, I'm going to go to college and major in theater. And although you want to be very, very supportive of your kids, I wanted to be somewhat realistic as well and be like, son, there's like one Will Ferrell. And although you're a great comedian, I would love for you to pursue your passion. I am not paying for NYU for a theater degree. I love you. And so it's kind of similar to what your dad said, but it was kind of like, it wasn't the manly job that he was going after. I was like, let's think of other things within the arts that maybe you could do that. In the back of my mind, I'm saying that maybe you could make some freaking money at, and support yourself so that I'm not supporting you till you're 50. And so it's funny. I grew up in a similar household to you. So I get that. But I do feel a lot like your dad and trying to push your kids. But he actually is going into film, and he's very. I think he's going to do well, hopefully, and not just be a movie ticket taker at the movie theater. But we're working on that right now. So I love so many parts of that story. But there's something that you said in there that we're going to get to in a minute. You were a hygienist for a prosthodontist.
Yes.
And I want to get to that in a minute. JB, was there anything that you wanted to ask about?
No, I just want to, I want to know more about your journey from graduating from prosthodontic school, being in practice, but then you've got your side gig, where you've got these other things that you are building and brewing kind of simultaneously. And how's this all playing out kind of at the same time and allowing you to really hone skills in both areas?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Again, it was never by design. It just sort of happened. And I'm really thankful for just kind of stars aligning and things working out that way. But when I moved back to Boston after my residency, I'm a New Yorker, but I decided to come back to Boston because in dental school, once your teacher's here, you're a hygienist, you like literally work for everybody. So it was kind of easy to find a job when I graduated. And so I rejoined the practice where I was the hygienist for the prosthodontist. So I was kind of doing that, working in another practice and also teaching at Tufts. So I've always been kind of a multitasker. And we started implementing CAMBRA, caries management. And we followed the 2007 California Dental Association journals verbatim. And we've tweaked our protocols a little bit. And we were pretty excited about it. It went really well in the office. Not everybody in the practice was on board, but my hygienist by herself in 1 year increased her production by about $50,000. So we knew we were onto something, but we really weren't sure if our practices were legit compared to the document that was published. So we presented our caries management protocols to the ADA. And we literally just wanted a plaque on the wall. Like, that's really our goal. We just wanted the ADA to be like, all right, what you're doing is great. Good for you. And we were awarded the Adult Preventive Practice of the Year in 2010. So super excited. Like I said, our only objective was to get the ADA to say, yeah, what you're doing sounds good. And I became basically a lecturer. Like, I never signed up for it. It wasn't something I ever dreamed of doing. And I was lecturing and writing about the clinical practice of caries management, or caries management specifically for private practices. And, I was writing and lecturing, and Penwell at the time approached me and asked me if I would be co-editorial directors with Joshua Austin on our online publication for Pearls for Your Practice. And I promised myself a long time ago that I would never say no to something out of fear. So I was like, okay, sure. What do you want me to do? So I signed up for that, and I did that for a few years. And it's just been kind of like one thing led to another, and here we are today.
That is awesome. And, it just kept bringing this smile to my face, because the first time that I heard you speak, and I've seen a lot of what you've written and everything, but I was with Rob Ritter last weekend, and he hates the word passion. But I noticed that you have a passion for prevention. and I said passion just for Rob Ritter, but really you really have this passion for prevention, and it shows. I mean, you've got the ADA award to prove it, but you write, you lecture on it and everything like that. And that was something that I was going to ask you. And I think this goes, I think I could answer my own question right now, but I was going to ask you if you have a hygienist in the practice, which it's obvious that you do, hygiene department. And the reason that I was heading there is that last week I got this referral from an oral surgeon and a prosthodontist, and they wanted me to manage the hygiene for one of their mutual patients. And I was like kind of in between pissed off and offended at the same time, because I just feel that prevention is such a huge part of our profession, and I can't understand why people don't incorporate that into their practices, so I think it's just awesome. It was just, I don't know. I maybe I shouldn't have been pissed off, but I was a little bit baffled as to why that would have been the case, So.
Well, it's interesting. And when I was in California, I had a conversation with somebody who was, kind of talking to me in an interesting tone and said, well, you're a prosthodontist? And I said, yes, I am. And this person's asking me about my practice. And I, talked about my practice. And I mean, I do practice like a general dentist.
Sure.
In some instances. But obviously I feel really strongly about hygiene, and I don't care what anyone says. My office is like a hygiene haven. Like, they have everything they could possibly want in there. And this person was like, prosthodontists don't employ hygienists. And I was like, evidently they do. So I don't know what to tell you, but if you don't prioritize, or at least give a nod to prevention, how can you have a great long-term outcome? I mean, you look at some of the most beautiful work you could see on Instagram or on Facebook or in your Facebook group. There's a lot of great cases. It means nothing if the patient isn't being carefully, cared for from a preventive standpoint, not only for their dental restorations, but for their health. So it's got to be part of your practice. I just don't understand why it would be otherwise.
Do you think that's a tradition or a norm that will change over time? Because I do understand where Chad's coming from. I don't think most of the prosthodontists in our community employ hygiene staff members. And so what has to fundamentally change for that to happen? Or, where does the pendulum shift?
Great
I don't know
question.
if it has to change, in the sense that if you don't want to employ hygienists, then don't employ hygienists, but then you better work really closely with the general practice.
Yeah.
I feel strongly about that. I mean, there's no reason why you wouldn't do that. I mean, I just don't understand why you wouldn't do that. I mean, especially if you're limiting your practice to prosthodontics, prevention has to be part of it. It just does.
Really, the take home of that is developing a really keen sense and appreciation and program for prevention, whether you manage it and directly offer it yourself, or you work with a general dentist who supports your philosophy and your drive and passion for hygiene.
Absolutely.
And
referrals can go both ways. Dentists don't just have to refer to the prosthodontist. We could refer back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's actually the conversation that I had with the patient, because it was a really interesting case. This lady had been in an automobile wreck or something, and had 8 through 13 were avulsed, and so she had gone for years with this flipper. And so I get this referral, and it's for hygiene and management of the lesions that they diagnosed that were carious lesions that they wanted to replace with fillings. And part of me was like, this is, I guess through education, I'm not a prosthodontist by any means, but I think that the treatment plan I was totally on board with, but I was like, I would rather them treat everything and then dismiss you afterwards. I mean, of course we did a prophylaxis, we did a full periodontal examination, we did everything that we were supposed to, but it was just it was just such an odd exchange, because there was never a phone call, there was never anything, but there was just this little directive to come see me and do this and that, and then send it back to me, and I'm going to do this. And then I'm like, where's the exchange? And so we had a long conversation about, okay, you're going to have all this work done. And I agree with all of this work. I think it's great. And I think you're going to get a beautiful result. But afterwards, you're going to need preventive care. And because everything will be for none if you don't take care of it or you don't have it managed. And so I was just kind of wondering where the handoff would be down the road. It was certainly, after my 23 years in the profession, it was the first of its kind in that way. So it was really interesting. And I work with prosthodontists on a daily basis. So I'd never heard of this person before. So very interesting exchange. But I love your passion for prevention. And I'll say it one more time, just for Rob Ritter again, passion for prevention.
He just left the group. I mean,
he did. Yeah, I
He
know.
offended him. He's like, I gotta go. I
yeah,
can't.
there's too much passion here.
He's long gone. Yeah,
Can't handle it anymore.
yeah.
Can you talk to me a little? So, as a young intern, my dentist that I mentored with was a contributing author to Dental Economics. And so it was kind of my first look at this very cool magazine. And I like dentistry, but I really am excited about the business of dentistry. That's a little bit of a wheelhouse that I really enjoy. And so when I saw there was this magazine that cultivated and encouraged the thought processes of business and dentistry, and it is healthcare, but it wasn't just healthcare. There's employment and payroll and all the other things that come along with that. And he was a contributing writer at the time. And now here I am talking to someone who is seeing the whole vision of that periodical. What's the evolution of this periodical over the last 15 to 20 years? And where do you see your role and its future and what it's going to continue to be as an impact for dentists in their business careers?
Well, what's really cool about this magazine, and one thing that I am so proud to be part of it, is that it's over 100 years old. It's one of the oldest dental magazines that exist. And it's interesting because it's only had a handful of editors.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I feel like when I signed on to do this, I'm like, this is like a life sentence. I got to like be here for a while.
They're not letting you out anytime soon.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I think dentistry's changed and the climate has changed and the economy is constantly changing. So I feel like we have a responsibility to follow these things, and also, via the industry experts, to be able to, help our colleagues to make sound decisions. And obviously there's this whole influx of DSOs and DPOs, and there's still solo practitioners out there. And I think that we have to support those. And I think we have to be kind of mindful of all of the different systems that are out there. And I also am a clinician. I own a practice. And so I think there'll always be a practicality to the magazine. I feel like when I take CE, I like to leave with things I can implement. I don't like to leave being like, wow, that person's so smart, but I could never be as good as them. Like, I can't stand that. I really believe that, if you want to be of value to people, you have to help them, and empower them and give them tools so that they can bring these to their practice and roll up their sleeves and do that. And so I really value our contributors that really help with practical solutions for everyday real life problems.
Do you see, I'm sorry, Chad,
No, go ahead, please.
We had Linda Miles on a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about the change of dentists attending in-person learning and CE. Do you see the same impact in written periodicals and magazines? And if so, is there an intention or an evolution of what that may look like in the future for dentists to continue to consume that information?
I mean, I hope that the printed publication's here to stay for a while. I mean, I just feel like there's something nice, and maybe I'm showing my age, but I think there's something nice to holding a magazine and kind of flipping through it at your leisure, and kind of coming back to it, or dog-earing a page, something so you can come back to it. I find sometimes if it's digital, And if I'm like, oh yeah, I want to remember that, let me save that, I'll never look at it again. Like I have to do it right then and there. You can forget it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, it's getting harder and harder with print. And obviously, the DE audience, the print DE audience tends to be a little bit older, but we also have a digital magazine and you can subscribe to that, and we also have e-newsletters. So there's definitely a push towards digital. A lot of our advertisers are more interested in digital options, but print is still alive and well.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, thank goodness.
Oh my gosh.
This is better. Whew.
I was feeling a little left out, and there
You
was
should.
nothing that I could do. I had to be kind of in the know, so I had to have it. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's
No.
not easy being green. Thank you for joining us.
Sure isn't. Sure isn't. Well, we've seen the same. Like I'm active in the AGD and other organizations, and you see the same challenges. But I would argue there is some reset on those things. Like we want to embrace it, then we realize we don't consume it actually in a digital. Like we recognize the value of going digital because it is less expensive, or you can get mass distribution in a different way. But at the same time, the actual consumption of information goes down, and so there is still something about having it in your physical hands and in your being, and your ability to reference it at your leisure. I think you speak volumes to why print media, books in general, and then continuing to stay educated are just so important for our profession and who we are. Chad, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, but I think to
we couldn't hear you when you weren't in green. We couldn't even hear you.
To add to that, I mean, I hate to read. I really hate to read, but I always bring journals with me when I travel. I mean, I have to. And that's why I hate to read, is because I spend so much time consuming like dental literature that I don't find the joy in reading. But throw a movie on and I'm good. But I do find from print media, and I think that if we were to take a poll, the majority of dentists probably still purchase products based more upon what they see in the print version versus the online version. And I think there will always be value from a sponsorship standpoint in print media. When I'm writing an article, and I'm writing one right now, I'm always researching online, and it's think how many you'd have to go through. But I think there will always be value, as opposed to, I mean, the newspaper is long gone, but the journals, the publications from professions, I think will always be here. And I think it's so important. That leads to another question. I know you were going to say something, but you can say it in just a second, because I'm going to be rude and interject. What type of articles would be of benefit to you all that maybe some of our viewers who are looking to getting into writing would be able to present to you all?
Well, obviously it's a practice management publication. So any sort of practice management, whether it's marketing or, basically lowering your overhead or staffing issues. I mean, there's so many issues that fall underneath this practice management umbrella. But at the end of the day, we're clinicians. So we have this balance of different things. So if you have a great case or something that you can, a procedure that you do well and do it efficiently, or there's an article coming out in July about really great analog impressions for clear aligners. And so, there's really something to be said for, clinical content as well. So, I mean, there's really a balance there. So if there's a topic you're Rob Ritter passionate about, then I say, hit me up, because, there's so much to planning a magazine, which I'm still learning. It's only been a year for me at this point, but, we plan out a year, months and months and months in advance. And, it's just really interesting how there's topics that are just relevant to everyday dentistry. And especially right now, I feel like there's so many hot buttons in our industry and with practices that the dentist needs support. I think it's interesting to see especially mostly on social media, dentists are getting trashed by staff right now.
Yes.
And it's rough. And I think we need support too. And I think that we need, there's a whole perspective that's, obviously teams feel a certain way, practice owners feel a certain way. And, I think that there's a middle ground where everybody could and should feel respected and happy. But I do think that dentists need a place to feel supported. And, obviously I'm on board 100% for doing that.
And you're also involved with Celerant, or still? Yes.
Yes.
So would you be willing to tell us a little bit about that? Because I noticed that our sponsor of our show is a Celerant award winner. So
yeah, so Celerant has like more than two, but I guess more or less two-ish arms, where Celerant is a consultant for companies that want, I always kind of say Celerant kind of helps companies' dreams come true, whether it's a startup company that wants to, gain traction in the marketplace, or a company that maybe wants to build themselves up and be acquired, or whatever it is. Celerant can do that. But then, and so that's, the consulting aspect of the business. But then there's the best of class. So that is Celerant's. It's, Lou Schumann is the one who came up with this, but it's not for profit, completely non-biased, where all of us, we go and kind of scour the different shows and the floors to find best of class technologies. And so that has nothing to do with the consulting aspect of it. And if I am a consultant for somebody that's up for an award, I cannot vote. And so it's really, truly a non-biased account of the best technologies that we are able to find. Sometimes they're technologies we knew about that we're kind of waiting for them to kind of hit the marketplace, or, sometimes it's something that's tried and true, and there's just nothing from our perspective better than that. And so, yeah, we do it every year. And actually recently, this is the second year that there's a Celerant Best of Class Hygiene Awards as well. So there's a whole panel of hygienists that I'm on that as well. But we go out and look for hygiene technologies as well that will be receiving this award. But again, that's the whole non-biased, not for profit, just kind of way that Lou Schumann wants to give back to the industry. Because I guess back in the day, a lot of awards that were out there were kind of pay to play. And obviously that leads to a lot of bias and doesn't necessarily enhance our industry. It's just whoever paid the most got an award. And that was something that didn't sit well with Lou. And he wanted something that was completely non-biased. Nobody makes a dime for it, and this way we can share some of the newest, latest, greatest technologies with our colleagues.
I love that. And I love that there's ways to just get this out to the colleagues and share that. So you know Marty kind of well.
I've heard of him once or twice.
Yeah. He was on a couple of weeks ago. Marty's good friends with Jeff, and I spent a lot of time with him in Chicago. And then who else is involved with Celerant? I know it's you, Lou Schumann, Marty. Is John Fluke part of that or no?
John Fluke, Paul Feuerstein, and Chris Salerno.
Oh, I feel sorry for everybody except Chris Salerno. Chris is pretty amazing, but the other guys, I'm teasing. The
rest of us just take us out back.
That's a great crew. That is really a great crew. I have a lot of respect for everybody involved. So that's awesome. And then we also have another mutual friend who really kept us on our toes when he was on our show. And I still laugh almost every time I hear his name, just because he's really passionate about prevention, and that's Brian Novi.
I always say Brian is one of two people on this planet that went to both my weddings.
Yeah, you all are very close, right?
Yeah, so it's so funny. So Brian actually won the Adult Preventive Practice of the Year award from the ADA the year before me. And so I knew that this dentist won, and I wanted to meet him, but I'm from New York. I'm not that friendly. And so I wasn't going to just reach out to him. And there was a conference back in the day, it doesn't exist anymore, the World Congress on Minimally Invasive Dentistry. And I went to it. And being the unfriendly person I am, I found the one breakfast table where nobody was sitting, and I sat down there by myself. And this dude comes up to me and is like, "Hi, do you mind if I eat breakfast with you?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." And he's like, "Hi, I'm Brian Novi." And I was like, "I need to talk to you." And we basically just hit it off right away, became really, really good friends. And he's just one of my favorite people on the planet.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, and I know I'm going to throw JB into this arena too. I keep saying passion for prevention, but it's something that so many dentists miss. They really do. And we, JB, myself, and Jeff did a program for GC, and JB's was on prevention. So she's now in that arena with you and Brian. And
I don't have a plaque.
Yeah. Well, you need one, but the thing is,
now I know who I have to talk to.
There's one of the biggest things that I feel that we miss in dentistry is the why. You know, we can fix it, but why did they get here in the first place, and how can we prevent them from going forward? And I learned so much from you and Brian when we were in Arizona, and it was so funny just to see Brian up there speaking and talking and just getting so hyped up about this conference. And he's like, and then they started talking about this and this and this. And I just stopped him and said, "That's BS." And he didn't. And he's like, "That's not the case, you know?" And he just goes on and on about why and everything. And I think it's missed. And I think that it's something that we all need to incorporate into our practices. And for you, just with this advanced degree in dentistry and doing so much, I think you're part of your why as to why you're so passionate is because you were a hygienist before. You've seen both sides, but you also saw an advanced dental team that actually had it put an importance into prevention. And I just love what you're doing. And I think it's just so important. So thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting that prevention, it's almost like, I don't know, I don't want to say like a dirty word, but it's sort of like one of those things where some practices are like, well, I make my money restoring teeth. Why would I focus on prevention? And, you know, you mentioned your why. And to be honest with you, it doesn't almost matter where your why is, because prevention can support that. If your why is to make more money, bring more prevention into your practice. I mean, right now, hygienists are like so expensive, and it doesn't matter if you are placing varnish on your patients, on every single patient. It's not a covered service. It's like zero overhead, and it takes 2 seconds. There's no additional time. Your hygienists will literally pay for themselves if you're placing fluoride varnish. And so I always kind of track my hygiene performance, and I ended up replacing my entire clinical team during the pandemic. That's a whole nother story for another day. But when I look at the hygienist that I had prior to the pandemic and the one that I have now, she brought in $84,000 more than the previous hygienist. You know, it's like, because we're finally practicing the way, well, you know, the way my vision was supposed to be. And, you know, you look at, you know, really whatever your value system is, if it's as a business person, bringing in more money, doing well for people, trying to actually prevent disease, oral or systemic or otherwise, it's all good. And so why not go for it?
I fell into it a little bit backwards, I feel like, because to your point, we're educated about it in dental school, but it's not where you're internally, or you're not financially rewarded. That's obvious. You have to really have a great vision of how you want to build that preventative program. But when I attended Kois and how he helped me understand risk management, and how for so long as a dentist, I held the responsibility of my work far beyond my control parameters, which is where prevention really comes in. Like, I can be the best dentist in the world and do a fantastic crown, but if I don't get some education into the patient on the environment in which I'm putting this crown into, the same challenges that were present before I got here are still going to be present when I leave. And for me as a clinician, whether financially motivated or not, it was so freeing to finally have those prevention conversations with patients and risk management to say, you know, we can walk this path together and you can choose to participate in the prevention process or not. But if you choose not to, my work has an expiration date. It has an expiration date on both paths, but the expiration date is much shorter when we don't participate in the prevention process together. And, you know, for my personality, that was extremely freeing because I took too much ownership of my work in that if I did it, it should last forever and be successful. And I think a lot of clinicians could benefit either from prevention from a financial perspective or even just from a mental health perspective. If you really understand cardiology and you really understand periodontal disease and its drivers and what brings patients to that particular break, and then why you have to get involved, then if you have that conversation with patients, then all of a sudden you're sort of giving it back to them and saying, I can help you, but I'm not going to own it. Like, this is your disease process. I just happen to have the toolbox. Maybe I can help, you know, so I fell into it in a little bit of a different way, but for me, it really resonated to find prevention as a big part of the conversations that we have that are meaningful conversations.
I think there's two phrases that come to mind. You know, a lot of people are stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, and they don't realize how valuable prevention is to the practice. And then the other one is from one of my favorite musicians of all times, and it's Jerry Jeff Walker. And that would be that if you don't take care of prevention, you're pissing in the wind. Because, you know, it's going to come right back on you. You can fix it, you can charge them, but you're going to be redoing it because it's not going to fix itself again.
And I feel like that is a publishable quote in DE.
It's a song. I can play it on the.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we could put that on the cover.
Pretty
Pissing in the wind, blowing all over a friend.
I can almost envision the cover. The art kind of just brings itself to light.
It's like one of those stickers that you see on the back of a Ford in Texas where they're peeing on Chevy. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
You can almost feel it. That's great.
Yeah.
That's actually the quote of the night. I thought yours was going to be, Chad, but
we can almost feel it.
The icing on that cupcake.
Like I said, blowing all over a friend.
Yeah. And she can feel it.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, we're getting to the close here, and I don't want to keep you. I know it's late in Salem.
I have to throw off my
You probably have a witch hunt to go on or something, but no.
Always.
What a breath of fresh air, and thank you so much. I would like you have a plug because there's something exciting coming up in August. Do you want to share that with us? And then I'll share the media with them in a minute here.
I do. So I'm working really hard to plan our DE's annual conference, Principles of Practice Management. This year's theme is Rock Your Practice. And it's such an interesting time to be a dentist and a challenging time. So I feel like some of us are struggling. Some of us just can't even keep up with the needs of our patients. Some of us are dealing with staff and having high turnover. I mean, the overhead, the inflation, I mean, you name it. There's so many challenges that we're facing right now. And this conference addresses pretty much all of it, which is amazing. You know, we talked so much about prevention today, but I'm actually bringing my hygienist to PPM, and she is going to talk about turning your hygiene department into a profit center. I've got Roger Levin. I've got, you know, one of our, again, mutual friends, Joshua Austin, Uchi Odiatu, Erin Elliott, Jay Geyer. I mean, we've got David Rice, such an awesome lineup of speakers. It's just going to be an incredible 2 days. And so it's August 26th, 27th in Nashville, Tennessee. And I hope you consider joining us because I really think it's going to be a great show.
And you know how passionate we are about education. And I would say that prior to anything, I would give anything that Dental Economics does the stamp of approval. So please, it'll be a great summit. I wish I could keynote on pissing in the wind, but maybe we'll save that for next year.
That'll be our theme for 2023.
There you go.
We'll lock it down.
And I love, yeah. I mean, hey, if nothing else, go to Nashville.
Yes, exactly.
Write it off. So, thank you so much, Pam, for being here. And I really appreciate your time. I'm glad that we finally reconnected and that you shamed me a little bit in a good way. It was a very, very cordial way. Love what you're doing for dentistry. Love what you're doing for your patients. And kudos to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to finally join you guys, and it's an honor.
Yep. JB, you want to close us out?
Do I have to? I'm not ready to go.
You're okay. Well, then,
I'm just kidding.
okay. Here comes the shepherd's hook. You're leaving. Close us out.
Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Pam, thank you for being here. It was a wonderful opportunity to talk about the business of dentistry and your journey and your path and your passion for prevention. Dinks, have a great week. Go enjoy probably the last couple weeks, or now your kids are out of school. Hopefully you're coming off of a great Memorial Day weekend. We'll be back live again next week. Baby Jeff will come. Until then, have a great week. We'd love to hear from you on our group. So post and comment. Be well, stay safe.
And a special thanks to our sponsor, Q Optics. Yeah, and who is a Celerant Best in Class winner, I believe a couple years ago. So thank you to Q Optics and Brent Downs and team. Y'all are doing a great job. Thanks, JB.
Good night.